We have Fermin Herrera all the way from Oxnard, coming to Santana, and somewhere along the lines he's teaching over at Cal State Northridge, and he's going to give us an introduction to the Nahuatl language. And I want you all to give Fermin a welcome to Santana in Orange County.
Thank you, thank you. Believe it or not, I have never been to Santana. I may pass by here all the time, but never actually been in the city. Anyway, on the way over here, I was thinking about how I should organize this. I didn't know what type of audience I would have, how many. You told me about 20 or 30 people. I brought some handouts. I hope that I have enough. But anyway, I'm going to approach it this way. Maybe 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes, just to give you a general overview of Nahuatl and its sub-territorial or geographical subdivisions, the matter of dialect. I want to address that. And then a little bit, perhaps, 30, 40 minutes on some basic elements of the structure of the language, the grammar, including some aspects of the pronunciation, which I suppose a lot of you are familiar with already. And then discuss Nahuatl as Nahuatl. Nahuatl, as you probably know, means clear. And I want to give you examples of what that means as opposed to, let's say, English or even Spanish that are unclear. That'll mean more to you later on. And then I want to finish off by providing you with examples of the impact of the Nahuatl language on Spanish, on everyday casual Mexican Spanish. If we examine our background, our culture currently, the most Hispanic element that we have is what? It's the language, right? Spanish. And even that is not free of that indigenous influence. Because after all, our culture starts out with an indigenous substratum. Yeah, there is Spanish influence, Spanish overlay, but our roots are here, not elsewhere. So that substratum, and I think we have to address it and embrace it and celebrate it. Okay? So, why don't I pass these out? We'll come to this in just a second. All right? I hope I have enough. I brought 30 or so. I'll keep one for me just for reference. Anyway, first let me go over a couple of details regarding language itself. We all know what language is. What we may not have ever thought about is the question of language variation, geographical variation. For example, take the matter of English. English is a language, yet it is spoken in the United States, it is spoken in Britain, and it is spoken in Australia. So these are geographical subdivisions of the English language. The term that a lot of people use, a lot of specialists in language use, is dialect. It's a word that comes from the Greek. Dia in Greek means throughout or through. Lect means speech, as in lecture. So dialect is speech found throughout an area. There are subdivisions of every dialect as well. For example, here in the United States, we speak English, yet we can easily identify geographical subdivisions as well, sub-dialects. So go to New York City, you're going to hear a different accent, right? Go to Texas, a different one. Here in California, we have a different one. So we have many subdivisions of that. The same is true of Spanish. We have Spanish, the language, spoken by Mexicans, by Spaniards, by Argentinians, and so forth. So we have various subdivisions of, geographical subdivisions of the Spanish language, dialects, all right? When it comes to, let's say, Nahuatl, we also have geographical subdivisions so that we can identify currently a form of Nahuatl spoken in Veracruz, the Gulf Coast. We can identify another one spoken in the area of Guerrero, another one spoken in Puebla, Mexico City, and so forth. These are nothing more than dialects of the Nahuatl language. Now, I chose to address this because there is one very hateful use of the term dialecto in Spanish. The term dialecto, unfortunately, tragically, has been reserved usually in everyday spoken Spanish, Mexican Spanish, to refer to the indigenous languages of this hemisphere. I even had one individual in one of my classes say, well, yo sé que el español es una lengua, I know that Spanish is a language, pero yo creía que el náhuatl era un dialecto, but I thought that náhuatl was a dialect. The implication is languages such as English and Spanish are true languages, but languages such as Mayan, Zapotec, and Nahuatl are not because they have a defective grammar. That's the term that is often used. And it's so tragic. Whenever we come across that use, we should always say something. I always do. I mean, I want to clarify this and I want to be very emphatic. We're talking about languages throughout the world, and throughout the world, languages that are widespread have territorial subdivisions. Nahuatl is one of them. So don't refer to Nahuatl as a dialecto or a dialect. We can refer to, let's say, the Nahuatl of Veracruz as a dialect of Nahuatl. Lo que se habla en Guerrero, otro dialecto del Nahuatl. Just as we can refer to the Spanish spoken in Madrid as un dialecto de la lengua española. A lot of people don't like that because of the traditional historic use of the term dialecto in everyday spoken Spanish. The situation is so bad, actually, that native speakers often apply the term to their own language usage. Yo hablo dialecto, or yo hablo en dialecto. And I, on numerous occasions, have sought to clarify that, no, you don't. Usted habla una lengua. And then I go through the whole, explanation of Spanish and English and so forth, and then approach it very specifically, very concretely, right, to the indigenous language. And oftentimes, the reaction has been one of liberation and one of, I think, just a positive attitude. So I just want to clarify that for you. Something else also is the question of style. In English, we have a formal style, and we can compare this to, let's say, style of dress. In casual situations, well, we wear casual clothes, tennis shoes, jeans, whatever. In situations that we consider to be formal, let's take a wedding, for example, well, males will often go in a coat and a tie, right? Certainly the groom, right? Tuxedo, perhaps. So the style of dress is different there. Style in language is pretty much the same. When you have the President of the U.S. addressing an audience, usually the style is going to be formal. That is, careful articulation of sounds, right? And a certain type of vocabulary. The grammatical constructions also will coincide with what is taught in textbooks. Formal. In casual situations, we're a bit more laid back. We can use contractions. For example, formal, I cannot. Informal, I can't. Both are English, right? Which one is correct, which one is incorrect? They're both correct. So we have to consider that. This applies to Nahuatl as well. You have certain styles of Nahuatl. For example, the classical style of Nahuatl, which is the one that is preserved generally in the codices, that's literary, that's pretty formal, as opposed to what you might find in a conversation today, either here in LA or in Milpa Alta in Mexico City or in Veracruz. Same language, different styles. Contractions, as we do in English and in Spanish, are permissible, are used, are customary in the everyday spoken style. Not so permissible in the formal style or literary style, right? So, I am going to go can be reduced to what? I'm gonna. Both English, right? Which one is correct? They're both correct. They're both correct. Spanish, ¿dónde está? Reduced to ¿onta? Right? They're both Spanish. Which one is correct? They're both correct. One is formal, one is casual.